עץ חיים היא למחזיק עמה ותומכיה מאושר תרחיה דרכי נועם וכל נתיבותיה שם.
Shalom. Our Torah portion this week is Bo. And in this Torah portion, we read that God commanded Moses and Aaron to appear once more before Pharaoh to demand that he allow the Jewish people to go out into the desert to worship their God. Now Pharaoh understands that there is a very good chance that the Jewish people will not stop at simply leaving their dwellings to go out into the desert to worship God, that there's a very good chance that they will continue to journey out of the land of Egypt. And of course, from his point of view, this would be a tragedy, because he would lose this great pool of from which to impress slaves into his service. Now, the negotiations begin. Now, you have to understand, Egypt had already suffered under 7 plagues. So Pharaoh begins the negotiations by asking Moses who would accompany him as he went into the desert. And Moses replied, the men, the women, the sons, the daughters, and also all of the Israelites' flocks and herds would accompany him. And Pharaoh said, I see what you're up to. You are set upon mischief, is the way he phrases it. And he says, only the men will I allow to go out. And Moses says this is not acceptable. And Moses and Aaron leave Pharaoh's palace. And what happens after that is that a great wind came out of the east, bringing a huge swarm of locusts. We say arbe in Hebrew. And these locusts fell upon Egypt, consuming every single stalk of grain to be found in the country. The country's food supply was decimated. Pharaoh calls Moses back into the palace, and actually repents at this time, asking Moses forgiveness. And Moses, interestingly, prays on behalf of Pharaoh, and God causes a huge wind to pick up from the west, and this wind, this westerly wind, lifts the locusts and carries them off to the east into the Sinai Peninsula. And then the negotiations begin anew. This time, Pharaoh agrees to allow all of the Israelites to leave, to go out to worship God. But something in him is suspicious, and he says, well, what are you going to take with you besides the people? And Moses says, I intend to take all of our flocks and our herds. And Pharaoh says, why would you want to do this? And Moses replies, we don't know what our Lord, what the Eternal One, Adonai, is going to require us to offer up as sacrifices. Therefore, we have to take our cattle and our sheep and our goats. Pharaoh says, no, this is not going to happen. And Moses leaves once more. And what happens after that is the 9th of the 10 plagues. Choshech, the plague of darkness, descends on Egypt. For 3 days there, a darkness prevailed in Egypt, a darkness so thick that you could feel it. This darkness made it impossible for the Egyptians to leave their homes. But remarkably, this was not the case where the Israelites lived in the land of lowest quarter of Egypt. There, in that area, was light. There was light in all of the households of the Israelites. And Pharaoh agrees now to allow all of the Israelites, their flocks, their herds, to go out, except he thinks about it. And just before the Israelites are going to go out, he says, "No, I've changed my mind." And then we have the 10th plague, the slaying of the firstborn, Makat Bechorot. And Moses tells the people that they are to take a lamb and to slaughter this lamb and to take the blood from the lamb and to dab their doorposts with the blood. And later on they will roast this lamb. And this would be a custom that existed for a long time in Israel. It would be called the Paschal sacrifice. It was a sacrifice or a meal that was made on the eve of Passover for generations. But what happened on that night so long ago in Egypt was the Malus Mavet, the angel of death, flew throughout Egypt, and every male firstborn child among the Egyptians was struck down. Some kind of plague, some kind of illness, we don't know exactly what it was, but every male child died. This included the male children from the very lowest castes in Egyptian society, right up to Pharaoh's palace. Every firstborn son died, but not so in the dwellings of the Israelites. The Malus Mavet, the angel of death, passed over the Israelite homes upon seeing that dab of the blood from the Paschal sacrifice. And from that passing over, Pasach is the word that's used in the Torah, from that act of passing over the Israelite homes, we get the name Pesach for Passover. Now, I hope that you will read this week's Torah portion, and you will read maybe some of the commentaries. There are many wonderful commentaries that are available, and I hope that you will gain your own insights and derive additional wisdom and learnings from this week's Torah portion. Shabbat Shalom.
Shine.